Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Royal Grown Radio. Thank you for joining the conversation today. It's been a minute since we've gotten together and recorded an episode. We're really excited today to have a very special guest, someone we've known for a long time, Rick for much longer than myself, but we've had some great crossing of paths through the years. Longtime Humboldt cultivator, consultant, influencer, formerly of Dragon with Matches, Scarlet Fire Farms, and currently proprietor of the Dragon Wagon and Dragon Design and Consulting. I'd like to welcome Bryan Sayre. And as always, I have Rick Elliott.
Greetings, everyone.
And I'm Michael Beck. Thank you all for joining us. When I do these introductions, it's so funny. I'm always waiting for like a round of applause from the empty room. So we'll have to have Emmanuel drop in some clap track for us there.
Hey, there you go.
Perfect.
That works.
But Bryan's been a cultivator in Humboldt County for a really long time, so we're going to dive into the history here, dive into some of the early adopted techniques that he brought to his farms that are really starting to take off now, 5-10 years later, and just talk about where the industry's going and the wild ride of Humboldt cultivation over the last 20 years and how a lot of us who've been in cultivation for a very, very long time are now still in and around cultivation, but doing very different things. So thanks for joining us, Bryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here. It's good to hang out with some homies and represent the county.
Yeah, long overdue. We've been talking about this moment for a while, so it's great that it's actually happening.
I know, I'm hard to catch these days.
Especially now, your house is on wheels.
I'm a road runner, baby.
Man, that Dragon Wagon's getting around too. So you guys obviously have a ton of history. So I would love to just kind of start at the beginning. You guys both came to Humboldt around the same time, right?
Yeah, we met on the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, literally on the beach.
Yep.
Yeah, right. 13th, what is it, 14th Street? I can't remember anymore. Jeez.
Yeah, it was one of those beaches down there. We were both into the dead, both had seen shows. He was leaving for a tour. We hung out in the sand one night, singing and drinking and partying. And he was like, I'm leaving in the morning, you should really come. And I was like, damn, I got an actual job, a really cool one. I kind of like it right now. And then, so I didn't go with him, winded up getting mugged in Harlem the very next day on my route. So I literally cashed my check, went to the Greyhound, and was gonna surprise him. I took a Greyhound all the way across the country thinking I'd get to Sacramento to the Cal Expo shows, and I couldn't wait to see his face when he sees me on the lot. Like, how the fuck did you get here? And to find out, he actually missed it. He broke down on the way over in Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time.
I did see the moment finally. It was in Seattle, different city, but you still were like, what the fuck are you doing out here?
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, we definitely took two different paths, and though you took the Greyhound, we didn't end up riding together, but it sounded like you had a hell of a time.
I did. I almost got married on that trip.
Yeah, he said by the time you got halfway across the country, it was basically a dead show back there, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And then we also went to the same rainbow gathering, although we didn't actually see each other once there. It's just not surprising for a national rainbow gathering.
Right, yeah, we were too busy.
Hole.
Yeah, we were too busy trying to put out the fire.
We were putting out the same forest fire that was started by somebody in the camp.
Wow.
And somehow we never actually ran into each other. We didn't realize that we had both made it to the rainbow gathering and both experienced that until we were in Vermont, I think, at the East Coast Dead shows like 3 weeks later.
Right, because I said, see you later in Missouri. I'm heading to Montana. I got plans. Yeah. And I didn't head to Montana. I ended up going to Wyoming to the Rainbow Gathering, and then was like, screw this. I'm going back to the East Coast. I'm going to catch those shows.
Yeah, they were good ones too.
Good Deadhead doesn't leave tour. And geez, hindsight, wow. Good thing I did.
For sure.
Because it wasn't much longer.
Yep, grateful for sure.
Yep. Yeah, that was definitely an adventure for sure. Yeah.
And those days, the serendipity was so much more intense because people didn't have cell phones. You're traveling with no real connection to each other except for, I'll see you in Seattle.
Yeah, pretty much, right?
Amongst 100,000 other people randomly at this place, but it actually happened. Now it's like, I'll meet you at the bar on Tuesday, and you can't even run into somebody. So it's
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That was me exactly in Sacramento on the West Coast for the very first time in the parking lot after show 3 is over and everybody's leaving. And I was like, damn, I was really counting on running into him for my ride to Seattle.
Oh, no.
Like, I got to figure this shit out now. It's like,
Meanwhile, we're hustling across the country after I think we were stuck for like 8 days in Tennessee because we had a breakdown in the VW bus. And
Yeah.
Which is a funny story too, because is that the time that you guys you met Crispy with?
It wasn't that exact trip, but yeah.
Just another
it
breakdown
was
story in the
well,
South.
no, that was a pullover story. That was a pullover story, yeah.
I'm talking about Crispy with Bigfoot County Farms, of course.
Yeah, another good friend of ours and a really crazy way of meeting him, you know.
And especially because you guys didn't figure this out for like 20 years later or 15 years later.
Yeah, got pulled over in Arkansas. The cop said, "Who's Chris in the hippie van?" And we're like, "I don't know who Chris is." They're like, "Who's Chris from Florida?" We're like, "I don't know." And the cop brings us back to the car, and there's Crispy in the back going, "That's not them. That's not them." Oh, no.
They were basically telling the same story at a party one night in Sayre. And,
Yep.
and as it was getting told, they were like, "Wait a minute! Like, we were in this story, but from the other car."
Yeah. It was quite an experience. I actually just spent the night in Forest City, Arkansas, that same town, on my way
Nice.
back out here. A
Awesome.
little bit different scenario. They don't mess with the
flashback.
dragon wagon as much as they mess with the cow.
Yeah, the moo cow he's talking about is his Volkswagen bus that was black and white spots. I don't know if it was meant to look like a cow, but it certainly did.
Well, I found it in the woods behind an auto shop in Bayville, New Jersey, and the engine was inside the van. So I went to the front, and I mean, it was all rusted and stuff. I went to the guy in the front, and he's like, "I don't know whose it is." He's like, "If you want it, you can take it." You know, he's like, "Honestly, I even know a guy in New Hampshire that can get you a title for that."
Get out of here.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
So we dragged it out of there and brought it over to my house, and my stepdad and I rebuilt the engine. And instead of doing a paint job on it, I just took black primer on the white bus. Just it's like, now it's a cow. It's the Cow
makes
Palace.
That's
makes sense.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, there's way more synchronicity in this than I realized. And so you guys tie together with a lot of current cultivators and longtime influencers, all coming here at around the same time, right after Jerry died, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I found this place, in '94. That was the year that we're talking about. I had already had plans. Like I said, I was enrolled in college in Montana. I was gonna just have a fun summer experience one more time, and I was gonna head up there. And I stumbled across Arcata, California, and the plaza, and was like, "Whoa!"
Named your dog after it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, got a dog a couple days later. Named my dog after it. So she was with me for 12 years. So I lived with Arcata for 12 years. Yeah, and then of course once I found this place, Humboldt never leaves the heart. So I just kept coming back. I did actually end up making it to Montana, and got to experience it up there a little bit, but being landlocked and being 1995, they weren't really too conducive to Grateful Dead nor the dreadlocks.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna use this place to make money, and I'll just keep coming back.
There long enough to make some contacts.
Yep, exactly. Still have a lot of good friends out there that, some of which have actually moved to Humboldt County and successfully cultivated cannabis and opened other, local businesses. And it's, I think that time of year when we all got here was or that time of our lives when we all got here in the mid 90s, I feel like it was already a little bit of a paved path for us. People had already kind of been doing it for 20 years out here, and we showed up right at this new technology land when, I remember it was just the first time people were talking about growing weed in greenhouses, right?
Yeah.
And
it was mainly indoor. In Arcata, in northern Humboldt, it was almost all
It was all
indoor.
indoor, yeah. I mean, you go anywhere else in the county and people just didn't think northern Humboldt grew outdoor weed.
I remember I was living at that commune up on the Salmon River, and I came down to a spot you were living at. I can't remember where the hell it might have been, but you had a light or two, which back then was that was kind of a big deal.
Oh, yeah, man.
And I remember, peeking in and being like, "Damn, Bryan, that looks amazing." And you were like, "Fuck, are you serious? This is like a quarter a plant. This is a total failure." And I was like, "What? It looks incredible, though." But obviously, in the metrics of trying to be more successful and put more weight on a plant, can see where he's coming from now, but like at the time, I was like, "You're fucking killing it."
But this is early single-ended HID days at the very best. Like,
And the price per pound obviously was where it
what,
was
5,600
Yeah,
here
you
at
could
that
afford
time.
to grow less weed then. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely a whole different world. We didn't have the knowledge that we've all laid out and logged over the last 20-something years.
Yeah, so many have
we would
worked
go-
so hard for that knowledge.
Right, yeah. Now it's just at your fingertips. Actually, there's too much knowledge now.
Right? It can get
Damn
kind of
internet.
overwhelming.
Yeah, definitely. You have to know when to pump the brakes and not try all the different things, because that's one difference than it was before. It was like, we had American Hydroponics, one grow store in town, and you couldn't really talk about weed unless you got Bryan over in the corner and you're like,
Right. I had my Bryans. I had the 2 Bryans over there, and then I had you. When I couldn't go to American Hydro to ask those Bryans, I would come to you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we got that Blue Lake house, and we were setting up for the first time,
Oh, man.
I was surrounded by Bryans. I had Bryan
Yeah.
Sharkey as well.
Yeah, we're good
Hilarious.
people for the most
Lots
part.
of Bryans. Popular name in the 70s.
Certainly was.
Yeah,
All
it's
the
like-
moms thought they were cutting edge. And then suddenly we all got to 2nd grade and there was like 8 Bryans.
Same with Michael's. I feel your pain.
I can totally imagine that, right?
Yeah, everywhere you go, every time I pick up the phone, hey, this is Michael. Me too.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
So you guys traveled after meeting randomly on the beach in New Jersey. You end up Jerry's passing in '95 was a shock to all of us who were into the Grateful Dead at the time. Really a shock to a lot of people. Was it like after the tour you were already here, you'd already discovered this place, but was it, the magnetism already so strong that you were like, yeah, that's going to be it. I'm going to run through Montana, but I'm getting back to Arcata? Or was it, yeah, Jerry died, what's next?
The weed, I think, it was so strong and so beautiful here. And on the plaza or Redwood Park, like you could just go there and like score fucking weed that you'd never seen really before. I mean, there was good weed on Deadlot, but like the stuff that I think the first bag we ever bought was from a lawyer that was walking around the plaza when we first got here in '94, and it was freaking incredible. And so if you're like a weed lover, like we were and are, at that time, like, coming off the East Coast, Humboldt weed was like, it was special.
Yeah.
When you're growing up smoking the shit we were being turned on
in
to.
Jersey, you weren't even smoking Mexican weed. You were getting Jamaican weed out of the bottom of a diesel tank.
Yeah.
So pressed that the seeds were crushed. Just
Crushed.
flat.
Yeah, for those of you out there listening who don't remember crushed seeds, count yourself lucky. That was a debacle of the cannabis industry just being so crushed, but it was all we could get for so long. Coming out of Mexico, Colombia, Jamaica, a lot of it was just so destroyed, and to see where it's come from that being the predominant thing in the 90s, here we are 30 years later, like, wow, what a transition.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a popular thing.
Big time. World over.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think all walks of life can find some kind of use for it or some kind of benefit from it, right? I mean, getting back to your question about how, what was it about Humboldt is that I think honestly, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I do, hindsight now especially, is the community. It was just like people were all like interacting with each other, all ages, like were communicating with each other, and people were just happy to be there,
Yeah.
I
The
feel
thriving music scene. There was tons of shows.
Oh yeah, the plaza had like 4 or 5 music venues on it. It was a different time for sure.
Well, you guys were lucky enough to catch the Cafe Tomo days.
Yes,
Big time.
And Bruin Beats was right before that. But I remember my first experience of even knowing what Bruin Beats was, because when I got here, I was 19. I didn't go into the bars. I was just looking to smoke weed, eat some acid.
Right?
But Bruin Beats was the bar before Cafe Tomo, and I remember the doors being locked, and there was some big scandal. The owners disappeared, and all the employees were out standing outside wondering where their paychecks were, and Yeah. So
There was the other spot too in Blue Lake that was a rager for a while too when we first got
is
here.
that like the Deep Forest Pizza
Deep Forest
place?
Pizza.
Yeah.
They had the raging shows out there too, right by the gas station in Blue Lake on the main drag there.
What?
They had shows and that place would rage. The whole parking lot of the gas station and out front would just be nothing but kids. Literally right after Dead Tour, there's a gazillion kids in town.
Yeah.
And yeah, that place would go off. And
That's the
I think
first I've heard of it.
That got shut down too. I want to say there was some
That got shut down.
underage serving going on.
Yeah, I
and
remember a couple of our friends ran into a little bit of trouble.
It's
in
always
that
our
place.
friends that ruin it.
Yeah. Well, they just roll up with the digi and start
Yeah.
selling weed. It's like it's a lot. Every day's the lot.
Yeah.
Right? Even here at the time, people weren't quite ready for that or didn't want to be ready for that. Even if it was happening on some scale, they weren't ready for like it to become a mecca of, you know, a place for people all over the country to be like, oh, I found freedom. I found home. It's almost the same magnetism as the 60s San Francisco, but on a smaller scale where, you know, all those people came and then, you know, 5-7 years later, as Fish Tour kind of wound down, 10 years later, everybody started coming from Fish Tour as well. And, you know, that's where I got turned on to the area because, you know,
Yeah.
a little bit younger. But there was always this thing that captured people here. It captured the Back to the Landers, ended up putting in communes and bringing people like Rick to live out in the woods. And
Totally. Bryan did a stint there too.
Yeah.
another one from the commune. Huh?
I was never officially a resident. I had dogs, and that was when I showed up. These guys had already ruined it with
We
the
had
dog
like 18
scenario.
dogs.
Yeah.
I think we had more dogs than people. So
Yeah.
it became an issue.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Black Bear was a pretty special place.
Yeah.
It really was. I remember, not to get off too far off topic, but I remember the very first time I got there, it was at night, and the little rudimentary power system was down.
Yep.
So I met like 20 people in the pitch black. We all sat in the circle in the main house,
Yeah.
and just talked. We didn't even know what each other looked like. It was so awesome. You
That's
know? It was such an amazing way to be introduced to such an amazing place. But then the 9 shitters in the morning was another way, pretty interesting way to introduce everybody.
That's it. You get to see people for the first time. That's rough.
I've never been into a multiple seat outhouse before, and I
Yeah.
swear there was like 8 of them, right?
I believe there was 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. There was a couple
That's
of squatters, a
communal
couple of
living
kids
right there.
seats.
A 9-seater. I've never even heard of that. Wow.
Yep.
We're not mad at that technology changing.
No, I don't think. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
They shared everything out there.
Right? So we've talked to a few former Black Bear and, you know, Black Bear lovers and friends who've known and
Most notably
connected.
Nat from Humboldt Seed Company.
All right. Yeah.
And, you know, somebody who was kind of conceived, grown up out there is his daughter, Hallie. So it's really interesting to see how many people that came out of that group that have become such huge influencers in the cannabis industry.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, in all sorts of industries. I mean, that place has quite a history.
Really does.
I
there's
mean,
authors.
celebrities, and I mean, I'll run into friends that I mean, not like they're celebrities, but I'll run into friends that are disconnected from people and be like something about Black Bear and be like, oh, I visited that place. And It's like, out there? It's like 4-hour drive from civilization.
Literally.
Literally. Like a 20-mile-an-hour, 4-hour drive.
It's a pretty
to
special
nowhere.
place. It's definitely a little bit of a vortex.
Yeah.
Good
No, I
energy.
think that anybody that has been touched by that place is blessed beyond. I don't think there's many places like that in the world.
And that was a pretty cool thing as far as I know. We talked about it a little bit on this podcast in previous episodes. Is there was a really special weed culture out there in those hills as well. You know, obviously Mendocino County and Southern Humboldt County always got a lot of the recognition. You know, it's always all the great weed is coming out of there. And obviously the Salmon River is just, it's a little more remote, I would say.
Right.
But some of the strains and some of the growers that were out there and the quality of the product, it's freaking incredible. I mean, you can attest to this. I mean, how,
100%.
did you ever see me smoke a joint and stuff from out there and fall flat on my face?
I've seen that once or twice.
Brian's he's witnessed it twice.
Yeah, what's that? What is that new syndrome that people are having with cannabis? I mean,
With
the
dabbing or whatever?
hypermesis or something, where people are like having really bad reactions to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you were textbook that. You know who else was? Gene Mangus was,
No way.
was like, he smoked weed, he'd puke for 3 hours.
Wow. I mean, it's really strong. Yeah, Bryan and a couple other people thought I died. They literally I just went from
Yeah.
standing up to straight fell right on my back, just out cold.
That's not the Rick I know.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't. Yeah, those were some moments.
No, Rick is, of everyone I know, he's the guy who's still standing at the end.
Don't ever try to
Not
compete
that
with
day.
Rick. Rick is literally the last man standing, and he'll have the biggest smile the whole time.
It's funny because I was just gonna say the same thing. It's like the smile keeps you upright or something.
I have a picture of him in a bar in New Orleans. It was like 8 a.m. He's got 2 drinks in his hand, and his face is so lit up, you can read what he's thinking. I'm at a bar at 8 a.m.
I know the picture you're talking about. The best thing is that there's somebody else in that picture. It looks like he's probably crying to his mother on the phone, sitting at the table in front of the bar with like the saddest, upset face of just the fact that he's still awake at 8 a.m. So there's like that
right.
juxtaposition that's just classic, dude. It's amazing.
We're gonna
I
have to
feel like
dig that
there's-
up and get it
yeah,
on
we
the
will.
website.
I feel like there's a third party in that picture, and it's a blur of a guy walking by with a briefcase. So there's like all aspects of
remember that.
life
That's
right
awesome.
there.
amazing.
Oh, random.
Yep, because people do still function in New
New
Orleans somehow.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, that was an experience, all right.
I mean, New Orleans always is, but
That was Jazz Fest. That was my first
Yeah,
Jazz
the
Fest.
first and only Jazz Fest I've made it to.
Yeah.
And, but now that I live in Florida, I might make one.
Yeah, it's a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah.